Today's video is actually an extension of last week's video. Last week we talked about the principal stops on the organ, specifically the 8-foot and the 4-foot. Today we're going to talk about the full plenum. When I use that word plenum, it just means a combination of stops that is bright, it's invigorating, it's energetic, and we have quite a number of different plenum options on this organ. The way you build a plenum is you have your 8-foot, you have your 4-foot, you have your 2-foot principles, and then on top of that you add either a mutation or a mixture or both. What's a mutation? Well, on the great we have a mutation called a 2 2/3, and as I explained last week, when we use those numbers, it means how long is the lowest pipe of that rank. So when I say 8-foot, it means that the lowest pipe down here, the lowest C, is 8 feet long. For 2 2/3, it's 2 2/3 feet long, which is a third of the length of an 8-foot. So since we're now introducing thirds in terms of lengths of feet, what we're doing is we're adding non-unison sounds. So for an 8-foot and a 4-foot, those are an octave apart. But when I'm talking about 2 2/3, it's an interval of a 12th. So just to demonstrate, here's the 8-foot principle. Oops, wait a minute. Here's an 8-foot principle. I'll choose middle C. If I play only the mutation, only the 2 2/3, it's an octave plus a fifth above the 8-foot. When I lay, which sounds kind of strange, you would never use a mutation on its own, it wouldn't really make any sense. But when I combine it with the 8-foot and the 4-foot, might as well add the 2-foot in there. Listen to how it sounds. Here's 8-4-2, no mixture, no mutation. I'll add it. I don't know the best word for it, but to me it sounds like it just adds a little bit of grit. It adds a little bit of color. I think that's the best word. It adds color. So for the great plenum, 8-4-2 mutation, I'll call it a 12th. That's a little bit, it's more kind. 8-4-2 12th, that's our very basic plenum. I can also add what's called the great 4-foot. Basically, everything that I play on the main octave will be doubled an octave above it, and that really fills it out. That's a very energetic sound. That's a very exciting sound. Now, on the swell, I can do similar things. I actually don't have a principal 8-foot on the swell, but I do have a combination of a flute, a stop diapason, and a viola. And together, I'll just play those two stops, but together those two kind of sound like a principal. It's a flute plus a string. Just to compare, here's the 8-foot principal. So there's no doubt that the swell 8-foots are more stringy than the 8-foot principle. That's fine. When I add the 4-foot principle to that, plus the 3-rank mixture, this is the sound that I have on the swell. Again, that's very bright. That is very exciting. It's a cool sound. We talked a little bit about mutations, that 2 2/3 length pipe. What is a mixture? On our organ, we have a 3-rank mixture on the swell. What that means is for every single key that I play, there's actually 3 stops that sound. 3 pipes that sound, I should say. Our mixture is 1 1/3, 1-foot, 2/3. You don't need to remember that, but basically, again, we're talking about adding very small pipes to add this sort of energy and spark to the sound. This mixture, it is very unusual to only have a mixture in the swell. Normally we would have a full mixture, not just a mutation, on the grate. Jonathan has told me many times that his reasoning for this is to create a caged roar sound. A caged roar sound. So if I have 8/4/2 on the grate, and then that full plenum on the swell, but I have the swell box closed, listen as I slowly open the swell, how you can hear that brightness and that energy come to life. So here's the swell box closed. And you can hear the sound changing as the box opens. So those are our plenum options on both the grate and the swell. The reason I'm talking about all of this is this coming Sunday is Christ the King Sunday. It's a celebratory Sunday, and I'm going to use, for one piece, a German plenum, and then for a different piece, a French plenum. So I'm just going to demonstrate a little bit about what those two will sound like so you can start getting your ear accustomed. Starting with the French plenum, I'm going to add the oboe in the swell, and I'm also going to add the harmonic flute. Those are two stops that are often found in French plenums. They're always found on French organs, and they add, well, first of all, having that soft reed adds a little bit of kind of a darker color to the sound. And what the harmonic flute adds is that soaring melody, that soaring sound that sings out over all of the other voices. So in the pedal, I should mention that I'm going to have 16-foot, 8-foot, 4-foot principles, plus the 16-foot fagotto, which is our 16-foot reed that we have on our instrument. And I'm going to couple the sounds from the grate and the swell down to the pedal so that all of those sounds will be playing in the pedal as well. So let me demonstrate a little bit of this French plenum. It's just an excerpt of a piece called Fanfare by Nicolas Jacques Lemont. Closed. Now let's hear a little bit of what the German plenum will sound like. What I'm going to do is I'm taking the oboe off, I'm taking the harmonic flute off, I'm adding the mutation, and I'm adding the grate 4-foot. Here's just a chord. I'm actually going to keep the pedal as is. I want that 16-foot reed in the pedal, and I also want both the mixture and the 2 2/3 sound down there. So I'm going to leave that as is, and play for you a little bit of a piece called In der ist Freude. It's a awesome German chorale by J.S. Bach, a chorale prelude, and the chorale titled translates to In You is Gladness. Again, as I'm playing, listen to how energetic the sound is, listen to how joyful, how bright. I hope you like it.